got a king?
Go fish!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
もう一度言ってください。
マイルを
マイルを走ります。はい。I'm from Japan and I grew up in a city called Niigata, which is about 2 hours from Tokyo. And my hometown is we have lots of snow in winter, and that's why my dad named me Miyuki, beautiful snow. So growing up in a mountain, lots of snow area. So one of my hobbies are skiing. And also we have a lot of hot springs in that area, so I love to also go to hot spring area, which I haven't, skiing or hot spring I haven't experienced much in this country yet. Also I love swimming, also I love calligraphy. Japanese calligraphy is something I love doing because my dad was a calligrapher, my uncle was a calligrapher, and that's something that I enjoy doing from since I was school, and that's something that it calms me down, so that's one of my hobbies. I love also watching baseball. My brother played baseball, and Japan is big on baseball, so that's something I love to do. And growing up, I went to the small schools in a small town, and I went to Japanese schools all the way to college. And after that, I decided to come to the United States, mainly because I loved American culture. Growing up in Japan, I watched American movies, and I always thought, wow, it's so cool. American culture is so cool. That's something I wanted to learn, and I wanted to speak the language. So I decided to come to the United States after I graduated from college. And I went to University of West Georgia in Carrollton, and that's where I got master's degree in education. And of course, when I started in college, even master's degree, it was such a hard time I went through, mostly because my English was not very good at the time. But I managed to study and work hard, and I got the master's degree there. I became a teacher mainly because of my parents' influence. Both of my parents were teachers, and so growing up, my parents both took me to their schools, like even on the weekends, and sometimes they, let me talk to their students, and it was just fun to see their school, and it was nice to see them interacting with the students. First year at Elkins Point basically was my first year teaching at public school in America. So coming from Japan, and also I had a background in teaching college students when I first came here, but K-12 public school was completely different, and I had to learn everything, not just school things, but also the language and something, that culture that we don't have in Japan, that I was not used to seeing, and I had to learn. Like, for example, I didn't know what the ISS or detention was, and I didn't know that teacher had to serve the whole duty in between classes, and I did not know that teacher could give candy to the students. And those are something, when I first came here, I'm like, what? That's so different, and I was very shocked.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
My typical day, I come to school about 7:30, 7:40, depends on the traffic. And my first period starts about 1 hour later. So between that, I offer study sessions, or I start my duty, morning duty, and I also try to get ready for the class. Making sure I know what to do today. So that's before the class, and also after that I have 2 6th grade classes, and then after that I teach 7th grade classes, and then I have lunch period and with the advisement, and I have 6th grade with that, and after that I have my planning, and my planning time usually I spend on copying or answering emails, or also getting ready for the come up with more activities to do. So there's always so much to do during my planning. I sponsor origami club after school, and that's about twice a month we meet, and I wanted to do that because I didn't want my opportunity to meet the students just only to Japanese students. And so Origami Club is open to anybody in the whole school. And I also, the second semester, I sponsor Japanese National Honor Society. That's something, it's nationally recognized and organized, and it's only for selected students in 8th grade can join. And I also organize International Night. This is a school-wide event, and I enjoy organizing that event because I want a lot of people to enjoy different culture and then learn about different people. Mainly because, yes, I'm from Japan, and I want to spread out everybody about Japanese culture. To me, effective teacher is somebody who definitely make connections to the students. That's what I've been teaching, since I've been teaching from first year here. That's something that I really felt that very important. And my class is, I teach the language, so I get to communicate with the students a lot daily through the medium of my language, Japanese. And I feel, because of that, very lucky, because we get to I get to learn about students' hobbies. I get to learn about what they did yesterday, what they like or dislike. So I learn so much about my students. And I also try to incorporate that, their hobbies or what they like to do. And also I feel that, me coming from a different country and they're learning my language, so I always tell them that it's okay. I always tell them my mistakes or what I did wrong when I was here. And then students love that, love hearing my when I made a mistake and things like that, like a personalized stories. So like they understand that, oh, teacher is not mean robots. They're human, so they make mistakes also. So I'm trying to teach them it's okay to make mistakes, and then hopefully I'm creating a comfortable environment for them.
Time to wake up. got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
You've got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
You have less than 5 minutes left. Less than 5 minutes left to finish up your poem.
I grew up actually not too far from here. I went to North Gwinnett High School. And so I grew up in Suwanee, in Gwinnett County, and then I went to college at Georgia Tech. I majored in physics while I was there. I got my master's at Kennesaw, my MAT in physics, and then I started teaching. A few of my hobbies when I'm not teaching, some people call me a workout junkie. I do work out quite a bit. I have done a few marathons and a few triathlons. And then most recently I have done a full Ironman last December. So a lot of my extra time is spent training for other races. I decided to become a teacher because I had a lot of fantastic teachers when I was growing up. Some teachers who are alright, some were pretty good, but I had a disproportionate number of absolutely fantastic teachers. The foremost of whom is Mr. Wimpy, who was my high school physics teacher. The first physics class that I ever took, Mr. Wimpy taught it, and he was wonderful. He was the person to show me that it's okay if your brain works this way. It's okay if you analyze the world, and as some say, you hyper-analyze the world. And so through that, he really turned on to me a love of physics. But then through his love of teaching physics, it really showed me that I could think of teaching as a valid profession, that I could do that as well myself, that I could have fun with that it could be fully fulfilling as well. I feel like you can be a difference maker if you fully know yourself and if you fully know how that impacts your specific teaching style. Because there's not one recipe to any good teacher. I feel like if you know yourself fully, if you can look at yourself and say, this is how I need to teach, be it in a variety of mannerisms for different learning styles and different children. But if you're comfortable with that, then you can be a wonderful difference maker. Because teachers that know themselves well can teach well. And teachers who teach well, obviously, are going to make more of a difference to students. Oddly enough, my first year teaching was actually exactly what I expected, because everybody told me that teaching is going to be extremely difficult. And so I came in thinking, this is going to be hard, this is going to be rough, but I'll be able to get through it. And lo and behold, it was hard and it was difficult, and I got through it. So it was exactly what I expected, but it was by no means easy. I think that it was a lot of fun, it was very enjoyable. I very much appreciated the autonomy that I had to create lesson plans. But many people told me, don't reinvent the wheel, steal as much as you can. And I tried to do that, but a realization I came to was that sometimes the wheel that you make is better.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
To introduce physics to students, I first off try not to scare them. And I actively try to take away some of that fear because people come in with the preconceived notion of physics is hard, physics is scary, I'm not going to like it, all it is math. And so my very initial day, the first day of school, I always try to explode something. And it really captures the student's interest. But beyond that, and I feel like every week I'm reiterating this, I say physics is easy because you already know it. All I'm doing is putting a little bit of math and explanation behind what you already know. I throw somebody something and then all of a sudden they can catch it. They catch it because their brain immediately can analyze the trajectory, put their hand in the place to stop it, and catch the ball. They know how massive that ball is based upon how it's flying through the air, based upon the effort that it took you to throw it. And so your brain already knows physics just by being alive. And so I try to show the student that there's no need to be afraid because you already know it. And I just try to teach them what they already know. Being the teacher of the year was quite a surprise. I was in the library with the entire staff, and when they called my name, I was absolutely floored. I didn't expect it, much less this soon in my career. But it was nice, it was very flattering. And after I wanted it for the school level, I thought, okay, that was great, that was nice. And then they informed me that, oh no, you're continuing to compete for the district level. I said, oh, what does that entail? They said, well, they're going to come in and observe you and interview you. I said, well, I know when. And they kind of said, well, they gave me a week range. I was like, okay, let's go with it, we'll see what happens. Right after my first year, I was called back to my MET program and invited to give a talk to first-year teachers or to new teachers saying, after your first year, what advice would you give us? And my answer to what would make a new teacher successful is always that first bullet point, which is find something that de-stresses you, do it often, and do it a lot. And with that, it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, because you can be de-stressed by a number of things. It could simply be spending time with your family. It could be carving out time to set aside to spend with your wife or your husband or your children. Or it could be what I do, which is exercise. I wake up early in the morning and exercise a good bit, and that is how I can preempt any stress that is built up. So find something that de-stresses you would be my advice to new teachers.
Body language. Without saying a word, it can tell you so much. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time. Time to call 911 immediately. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Learn the body language, the sudden signs, and spot a stroke fast.
Okay, well, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I went to school at Auburn University. I made a choice to go there. I just kind of out of the blue. I didn't really know anybody that was going, and I just went on a hunch and loved and fell in love with the place and stayed for a number of years. I know a lot of people go into teaching kind of knowing that that's what they've always wanted to do. I was a little bit more of a lost soul, I think, in my 20s. My undergraduate degree is in journalism, and I love writing. I did some internships at some small newspapers in Alabama and had some job offers. They were really good job offers, and I was going to have to move around to some tiny little towns, and I was about 22 years old, and that sounded like not a great idea. So I moved to Atlanta instead and went into corporate journalism for a little while. About that time, I also got married, and I married my husband, who knew from the start that he wanted to be a teacher. So in the years when I was heading off to the office without any kind of windows to work with, staring at a computer all day, he was off teaching kids and loving it. And so I would go up to school with him, and I just saw the way the kids treated him and respected him and what a difference he was making in their lives, and I just knew I wanted something more. So I ended up going back to school at Mercer University to get my graduate degree in early childhood education, and I did that while I was also still doing a little bit of journalism work. About that time, my husband and I had our first child, so I finished up my school and then kind of took a little bit of a break from it, but I went and I started my first job teaching at Alpharetta Elementary School, where I taught part-time EIP there for about a year. Slowly but surely, I kind of got pulled into the PTA here at Hillside Elementary and started doing a number of different programs here. So there was one year where I served on the PTA board here, and my friend and I developed a couple of programs called Science Day and Artist Day. And I found myself spending all kinds of hours at the school, and I found myself wanting to be up here and wanting to spend time here, and I just suddenly felt that calling again to try it again, that it was the right path for me. My first year of teaching at Hillside really defined who I became as a teacher. It was an interesting year. Like I said, I kind of started at the last minute and got up and running, and I found myself very much supported by some of the teachers on my team and our CST here. But it had its ups and downs. You know, I looked for the first time at a teacher's edition textbook and thought, I don't know how to read this. I don't know how to put this together into a plan. And so I talked again with a couple of my mentors, and we came up with, really the school was implementing a balanced literacy model, and I thought this really works for me. Setting aside that textbook and going out and getting the real authentic literature, and just working with kids on good reading strategies, and working through good literature to develop good reading habits. And so from there, we also built in the writing. And I remember my CSTs at some point when I was really kind of struggling with balancing it all and figuring out how to meet the needs of everyone and just feeling a little overwhelmed. And she stopped and she said to me, she said, figure out what you were really good at and run with it. And so that really kind of helped define for me where I needed to head with teaching. I knew I was good at writing, and I knew I was good at working with those authentic pieces of text. And so from that point on, it kind of snowballed into being able to support my team with some writing ideas and being able to support my team with some reading ideas. I think a good teacher or a difference maker is someone that takes the time to get to know the kids, takes the time to understand what their interests are, where their strengths are, and again, where their areas of growth would be. I think it's the teacher that knows when to push and knows when to pull back a little bit, and knows when to be firm, and knows then also when the child needs a hug or just needs praise. You know, I think it's also a teacher that looks beyond the textbook, looks out into how to create these authentic, real-life experiences that kids can connect with. I think a good teacher knows how to balance the projects as well as the direct instruction that's needed, and so that you're not always working at an independent extension kind of place, and they're knowing that there are times when kids need you to sit down with them and model for them what they need, what they should be doing, and then turning it around and sharing it with them as they work through it and you're there for support. And I think it doesn't matter, quite frankly, whether you're in kindergarten or whether you're a senior in high school. I think all learners, including teachers that are learning the profession, need the modeling, they need the sharing, they need the coaching, and then they need the independent work.
No more pencils, no more books.
No more teachers' dirty looks. School's out for summer. School's out forever.
School out with fever.
School's out completely.
What this place needed was better graduation rates. So we worked with schools like Henry Ford High, and now they're up 18%. And it can happen in every place. To help us do more good this year, go to unitedway.org, because great things happen when we live united.
Well, I roll out of bed about 5 o'clock in the morning. I really love my kind of quiet me time in the morning, so I make sure I'm budgeted about an extra hour in every day. I take a quick little 2 or 3 minute drive to Hillside, which is really nice. And then first thing in the morning, you can always find me in the copy room. I always save my copies for the morning simply because I'm just done at the end of the day before. So I make those copies and I head down to my room and kind of get organized for the day, putting everything in the different stations that the kids will need. Hillside has a new model that we're using. And so with this new model, I'm now teaching specialized kind of content, and it's 3 classes, and the kids are transitioning to those different classes. So I open my day up with a reading-based science and social studies class. So we're still doing the science labs, but I've got a group of kind of struggling readers. So we spend a lot of time on applying good reading strategies to our nonfiction text. So the science and social studies class kind of goes into full gear when we're working, the kids are off working in choice menu options while I'm working with a small group, again working on tackling that nonfiction text. From there, I move into a full reading and language arts teacher, and so my next class in is an EIP 4th grade class that we work on reading and language arts. And the cool thing about this class is the majority of those kids I had last year, they've kind of looped with me. So I started the year off knowing them really well. And we are kind of already kind of just knee deep into, again, tackling those reading strategies and developing those writing skills. And then my day, teaching-wise, wraps up around, my last class begins at 11, from 11 to 12:30, and this time I'm back with another group of 3rd graders. And it's an interesting group. This is a group of kind of high achievers. So my day is different with them to some extent, although my other classes need some of the same things I do with these high achievers. But again, we're always back in those literacy stations working on those higher order type tasks where they are creating and producing different pieces of work. And I am meeting with a small group going over again those reading strategies based on where they are. So, you know, even in that 3rd grade class, I've got kids that are working at a 5th and 6th grade level. So we are there when they're sitting with me, that's the level of text that we're working with.